Thank you again to everybody who is joining us. We always look forward to our FIS Day with the Forum Nordicum. And we always are excited to share all of the news. And I think especially after this particular spring and summer, we have a lot of new and exciting information from the side of FIS. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Michel Bion for a general FIS update. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Is it okay? I mean, do you hear me, Jenny? That's good.
It's okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to give me the opportunity to tell you a few words. It's a pleasure, a real pleasure for me to be part of this Forum Nordicum. As you may know, FIS has since few months a new president, a new council, and a new secretary general. So I will take the opportunity to give you a few words on myself. Some of you are knowing me, but not all. I was an alpine athlete for 10 years in French ski team. I worked for 15 years in the ski industry as a racing product marketing director. Then 10 years also as a sports director on the French ski team with all the disciplines. Then the last 11 years as president of this French federation. And at the same time, I was also 16 years in a row a member of the FIS council, as a council member. So as you can see, I have quite a good experience on the ski world. But anyway, once again, it's a pleasure for me to be with you today. Come back to our Nordic activities. Of course, you will get information, precisions about the coming season with all the race directors. A very important season, of course, with the regular World Cup season, but also with the Olympic Games of Beijing. But you have to know at the same time, during the summer, President Johan Elias has implemented few council working groups, and especially a Nordic Future Vision Working Group. This FIS Council Working Group will work during the coming winter with few meetings, and will give recommendation to the FIS Council in the spring for decision and of course implementation. The idea is, because as you know, we have committees, subcommittees, we already have a large organization, but the idea of these working groups are very clear. The idea is to have a very clear plan for the next Olympic period, including evolution in our calendars, in our formats and contents. And sometimes I have to say we will have to be out of our own box to see if we have new ideas coming up. And as you may know also, we have in terms of formats, in cross country, we have, I think, more than 25 or 27 different formats. That work should have been done on this field, and see how we can improve and be better on our product. Product will be the key word. We have to work once again to improve the product and to be more efficient on this field. In the meantime, we will have to face with few Olympic issues concerning Milano Cortina 2026. We are talking about the inclusion of new disciplines into those games, mostly on the ladies' side. As an example, I'm talking about the large hill for ladies in ski jumping, and ladies Nordic combine for ladies. So it's some issues we will have to face on the next days. Normally, we have to give a clear answer and clear statement to the IOC before the 15th of November. So it's 2 weeks left. Then the decision has to be taken and see what we can improve on this field. We all know that IOC and even FIS won the best gender balance for the disciplines. So that's very clear that the Nordic combine for ladies is one of the best the top discipline we want to push forward. But to be honest, there's also many other ones on the FIS field concerning snowboard, freestyle. So it's not so easy. And as you know, IOC is also the door is not really well open for all disciplines and for new events, especially. That is more or less what I would like to tell you for this opening and welcome words from my side. So I don't know if there's any questions, Jenny, or if we go for the next page.
Yes, we actually have a special guest who has just dialed in. Our newly elected FIS president, Johan Elias, is online. Just spoke with him, and I think he's going to turn his camera on and just welcome the group and give further information. So Johan, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and good morning, dear winter sport friends. I am delighted to be with you today and address you for the first time as FIS president. Gianfranco Caspar, he was a very respected sportsperson, a kind human being, and a very important asset to this forum and the world of sport. He is sadly missed. He's a dear friend, and may his soul rest in peace. I plan to continue the tradition of exchange and cooperation that he has brought to our sport, so that we can carry on to bring winter sports to the next level and shape its future together. Changes are part of our sport. Sometimes they're forced upon us, and we have to learn to deal with them. The best example is the COVID pandemic, which has presented us with great challenges over the past year and a half. But the way we have faced the situation and were able to react shows that our sport is built on a solid foundation and is adjustable. But then there are also changes that we ourselves have to initiate in order to lead our sport into a bright and successful future. With this ambition, I approached the office of FIS president. I know that change is not always easy, but it is essential to develop the sport for the benefit of the athletes, their support teams, and the athletes who will follow them. Our role as the International Ski Federation is to provide the necessary framework for the sport to shine and inspire the audience. Our goal is to grow participation and competition in snow sports and to evaluate all the possibilities that lead to achieving it. This is about optimizing the competitions. How can we design the season and its formats to bring out the best of the athletes, respect the environment, and highlight and promote the fascination of snow sports for fans, sponsors, and media. We strive for dynamic, flexible, and attractive events that connect the core values of our sport with the new digital age. So this is about improved commercial engagement. We want an allocation of media rights that benefits all disciplines and all nations and does justice to the enormous potential that snow sport has to offer. What broadcasting and streaming options do we have to illustrate the high-class performances of the athletes and cover the sport? There are so many untapped opportunities that we as the International Ski Federation want to recognize and exploit. Now, cooperation and exchange are essential and key to success. Only by joining forces is it possible to use the potential of our sport and promote it in an efficient and prosperous way. That is why I value this forum very much. It creates a setting to talk to each other, think innovatively, and share ideas. And it opens up a platform for inspiration and points of contact. It puts the sport and its evolution at the center and is not satisfied with the status quo, but strives for progress and professionalization. Snow sport has multiple opportunities to develop and commercialize its growth. It can and will grow for the benefit of all. This is the conviction on which we will base our work in the upcoming months. And I'm very much looking forward to learning of your approaches and ideas and to entering into an enriching and stimulating dialogue with all of you for the development of our sport and the future of our athletes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us. Are there any questions, initial questions at all? Unfortunately, I don't think President Elias has a lot of time, but anything, Torsten, that you wanted to ask on behalf of the group?
Okay, then let me start, please. Thank you, Mr. Elias, for the greetings and for your words. It's not a question, it's an invitation for the next Forum Nordicum. We will hold in autumn next year. Perhaps it's possible that we meet there directly, and you are very welcome to take part at Forum Nordicum 2022.
Thank you very much, and I will hopefully have a better schedule that will make it possible for me to come in person next year.
That's great, and the same invitation is also going to the General Secretary, of course, Mr. Villon.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will same as President Johan Elias. I will be pleased to join next year, of course.
Thank you. Questions from your side? Fragen von euch? Okay, the auditorium is so surprised that we got the contact to the president and to the secretary general. Just there are no questions at the moment. So Jenny, the floor is yours for the next step.
Great, thank you very much. Again, thank you again to both Michel and President Elias for joining us. I understand they both have very busy schedules, so they might drop out here in the next few minutes. Before we invite Pierre to speak about cross-country, I just wanted to quickly inform many of you about the COVID protocol, which was recently released by FIS and was in full action at both the Big Air in Hoor and the opening races in Solden this weekend in Alpine. You will find that the FIS protocol is very similar to what it was last season. We very much have the focus on what we refer to as the red bubble, which is the athlete and team bubble. And our goal last year was to safely get to the World Championships. And this year is obviously to safely get to the Olympic Winter Games and to keep everybody healthy. Everybody that is within that red bubble will be required when they show up on site to have a PCR test that is no older than 72 hours. And then if they are fully vaccinated, that PCR test will last through the duration of the event. And if the event lasts longer than 72 hours, people who are not vaccinated will need to have a follow-up PCR test. Additionally, for media and LOC, those that come in close contact with this red bubble will additionally need to have a PCR test and present it. And again, we're happy to announce that we have the FIS passport as well, that all the information can easily be uploaded. So that is the very, very brief explanation of our testing and protocol philosophy for COVID-19 this winter, just so that you are all prepared as you go on site, what to expect and what will be asked of you. All of this you can find on our website. On the front page, you can find under Inside FIS, a whole COVID hub, and there you will find the media guidelines, the entire COVID protocol, the communication guidelines, and if you're interested, the ceremony guidelines for athletes. So it's a lot of guidelines, but it's very clear when you read it. And again, our goal is to get to Beijing safely. Are there any questions on the protocol before I hand it over to Pierre?
Also Fragen von eurer Seite? Nicht alle gleichzeitig? Jenny, perfect.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen here real fast, so bear with me while I do technology.
Maybe while Jenny is fixing the techniques. Hello, everyone. Sorry for not being on site. Hopefully, like Michel and Johan next year. I don't know, Jenny, if you can fix it. Otherwise, I can already start to introduce a little bit. So I will present the news from cross country skiing, not in detail, but to explain you a little bit what we are doing this year during the spring, and also until now to prepare the upcoming season, but also the future of cross country skiing in the frame of the discussions from the council and the new FIS management. This year we have decided to change a little bit the way we were working. You know that everything is discussed in committee meetings and then moving to the council. So now we have this new organization in the council, but in anticipation to this, we have decided in cross-country skiing during the last winter to start a new way of discussing the different items before the committee meetings to be more prepared. That would be nice if I have the slide, but should I show it from my laptop, Jenny? Here we are. Okay, that's not full screen, but I think we can start like this. So as I said, we have changed a little bit the process during the last spring, and we have created a few expert groups. That was something new for us in cross-country skiing. Previous slide, please. Yeah, and. The goal of these groups was to find a kind of common understanding on various situations and challenges that cross-country is facing. Because when we are discussing with different stakeholders, we can collect a lot of feedback and so on, but there was never really before a kind of platform where we can really share live all the different ideas and to bring people together to discuss and come to a kind of common understanding of the situations. The goal was also to involve more the athletes, the coaches, and different experts such as TV directors or marketing specialists. Not a lot of them, but still some of them were involved in these groups, especially from the athletes and the coach side. And the final goal was to propose some changes via the national ski associations, of course, but to the respective committees, and to gain some time and to have more efficient discussions when we come to the committee meetings themselves. So these groups were focus on different items. So we try to be quite specific to narrow down, I would say, the topics, because we are easily going very wide and at the end not really concrete in terms of proposals. So one of this group was working on the calendars, World Cup calendars. One group was working on the race formats. It's also some ongoing discussion since many years. One group discussed the athletes' participation, meaning how can we make sure that we have the best athletes coming to our events? Michel was speaking before about increasing and improving the quality of the events, and definitely we know that the base is to have the best athletes at the start. If you have World Cups with 20% of the top athletes starting, that doesn't really make sense, and at least it's not really attractive. And we know that it's from the past experience, one of the weaknesses in our system, that it's hard for endurance athletes to race every weekend, every competition from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, especially when we have World Championships or Olympic Games. There is a clear tendency to skip some events, including our major World Cup event, which is Tour de Ski. And this is definitely something that we need to solve in the future. And we strongly believe that we can do a lot of things with the calendars, with the rules and so on, but the base is to have the athletes with us and that we understand their role into this system and that they understand that they are the key to attract spectators, TV spectators, sponsors, and so on. Another group was working on a very specific topic, obstruction and overtaking rules. This is, I will come back to this later, but this is based on the experience since a few years that we can see kind of increasing gap between the expectations of athletes and coaches and what the juries were doing based on the rules, of course. But this gap became a kind of problem because after some competitions, and last year we had quite critical competitions in this sense, the publicity that we got was more focused on jury decisions than on the sport itself. So we don't really believe that this is the best way to promote our discipline and having endless discussions on jury decisions. So we wanted to here again come back together and find a common understanding on what should be the judging philosophy in what is the main type of cases that we are facing in cross-country skiing, especially when we have sprint and mass start competitions. Another topic was focused on the cost reduction and especially the cost related to the ski preparation and waxing. We know from surveys done 2 years ago and ongoing discussions since a few years that this part of the competition business is extremely expensive for most part of the teams and is creating also big differences between the teams. So we don't believe that this is the right way. We would prefer to invest the money on promoting the sport itself and develop the sport instead of spreading some waxes on skis, testing hundreds of pairs of skis every day during the winter for at the end a poor result, I would say, because almost everyone has the same ski quality at the end. And finally, the last group was to analyze a little bit the learnings from the pandemic. As the president said, the COVID was seen as a big challenge. That was a challenge, but that was also a good opportunity to see what we can put in the good to have or must have when we come to the organization. Year after year, we were more and more demanding on requirements for the organizers that was generating some cost for them. For example, in wax cabins or catering or things like that. And we can see after this year of COVID that we can reduce a lot this kind of costs without a real impact on on the teams, on the athletes themselves. And so that's also something that an opportunity that we wanted to use to optimize what we are doing and to really invest where it makes more sense. So in overall, these discussions were a very positive experience for us because we could bring together different stakeholders. We could also, I guess, bring a better understanding of the FIS system and environment for many people. When you see it only from an athlete perspective or a coach perspective or a TV perspective, it's hard to understand why things are like they are. But when we are discussing together, we believe that it helps a lot people to understand why things are not moving as fast as we would like, where are the limits and so on, even if, of course, we still need to work and find some concrete solutions. And I guess that we have already made some steps forward. And I will speak in the next slide about the calendars, but I think in this field, we have made some steps that we were not able to do in the last 10 years, I would say. So it's just a base for further developments, but it was an important step. Next slide, please, Jenny. So I'm coming a little bit to this outcome of these discussions, including then, of course, discussions in the committee meetings. And the first thing that we have formally put on the paper, I would say, is our priorities for the calendar planning, to take into consideration the evolution of the society, but also the needs of the athletes, of the teams. And we have tried to put some bullet points that we will always try to keep in mind when it comes to the concrete calendar planning, because we can have we had in the past too many times a kind of common general idea of where we should go, but when it comes to concrete plannings, then everyone was stepping back and defending their own interest, and that was a bit frustrating. But we believe that with having written very clearly what are the priorities, then we can always come back to this and say, okay, this is not going in the interest of my nation or my organizers, but in the overall picture, we need to make decisions able to move forward. So I will not go too much into the details here, but you can see that, of course, the first step was also to say that we need to be international, both in terms of athletes' participation, but also to explore and organize competitions as much as we can all around the world. Of course, that needs to be based on a real commitment from every regions, but in the long term, that's the goal, to be with World Cup events present in all around the world. Maybe not every year, but at least from time to time. Gender equality. This is an important topic in the society. I think that cross-country skiing is quite advanced in this field, but still, and I will come back to this when we speak about the race formats, we could see some discussions coming up, especially this year, but it's also something that was in the air since a few years. Speaking of the racing distance, same racing distance for both women and men. This is an important subject. There are some, of course, like all the time, some positive and negative aspects to evaluate. But this is, for the first time this year, we had in our athlete survey, a majority of especially women athletes who are in favor of having the same distances for the men and the women. That was definitely not the case in the last years, but we can see this tendency coming more and more important every year. So it's clear that the history is probably to go into this direction. It must be done in a certain way. When I say same distances, I don't say that the woman should raise the men's distance. We need to probably also find a compromise and work also with our history when it comes, for example, to some iconic races such as the 50K. It's worth having discussions and evaluation before killing the 50K or putting the woman on the 50K. We need to evaluate what it means in terms of consequences and in which sense that will help the sport to develop and to increase the quality. Climate change. I guess that this is also an obvious topic in the society today. We can not anymore travel back and forth, Scandinavia, Middle Europe. We were too many times in the past having one weekend in Scandinavia, going down the next weekend in OP nations, and then back to Scandinavia and so on. Last winter, we even we could change it at the last minute, I would say, but we were even planning to go in from Sweden to Finland and then back to Sweden. That doesn't make sense in the current situation of the world, and we definitely need to work on that to optimize our travels and logistics and reduce our footprint. Athletes participation, that was also a group working on that, but it's clear that we need to give to the athletes the opportunity to have some resting periods or training periods during the winter, especially when we have big championships. Otherwise, the direct consequence is that they are just skipping World Cup stages, and the direct consequence is that we are killing a little bit the quality of these events. And of course, we need to take care on our audience, both on TV, but also on site. There is some margin, I would say, in cross-country skiing in many places to develop the events on site. We have good examples, for example, in biathlon, in ski jumping, where the events are not only TV events, but are also for spectators coming to see that. Of course, the COVID was not helping us in this sense, but we can really see how different is an event when you have spectators or no spectators. So that was definitely something that we need to keep in mind. And last point was the financial sustainability, because we could also see in the last years that more and more teams cannot anymore afford coming to every World Cup stages. This is due to probably some costs not put in the right place. I was mentioning the waxing things, but also due to the travels. It's expensive to move with big teams around the world. So travels are okay, but we need to optimize. And as I said, for the climate change and the footprint, we need definitely to have a logical calendar and to move from side to side, venue to venue, country to country, with a logical plan. So that will be the base of future discussions regarding the calendar. And some of this was already implemented in the 21-22 World Cup calendar. There is nothing new, I guess, that you have all seen it since May. What I can highlight in this calendar is that we have, I guess, here optimized logistics and reduced the travels. We are starting from the north and going down to Central Europe, staying there until the Olympics, and then heading back to Scandinavia and then Russia. So there is a certain logic, and I think that this is really the direction where we should go. As you can see as well, we have more weekends with additional competition, meaning not only competition on Saturday, Sunday, even though we know that Saturday, Sunday are the best days for TV exposure. Here we have tried to have some competition sprint mainly on the Friday to make the travels and more valuable for the teams, and to also help to bring the athletes to more venues, because of course when you have more competitions you have more World Cup points, you have more interest for both the sprinters and the distance athletes, and you have much better chance to get the athletes on site. Of course, it needs to come together with an optimization of the calendar and the number of weekends, and that's why you can see also that we have no mini tour in Roca. So that means the sprinters, we will have more sprinters and more distance athletes in Roca because they don't need to be all part of the tour. It's a test. We will see. We know that tours and mini tours as well are quite appreciated by the media and the followers as well. But we believe that if this allow more athletes and more top athletes to come to Roca and Lillehammer, because that makes the travels more valuable as well, then it's worth the try. You can see as well that we have a shorter Tour de Ski, and with some untypical racing days. This is not the best possible solution, but we got clear feedback from the main nations that a normal Tour de Ski at normal dates would be too close from the Olympic Games, and definitely would lead to have kind of B teams at the Tour de Ski. So we really hope that by making this effort, and we will have more participation at the Tour, or good participation at the Tour. And we really hope that the teams and the top athletes will follow us in this. Otherwise, it will be not a win-win situation, but lose for all of us. What can we say? We will also have the pre-World Championships events in Planica, a good test for next year World Championships. And we will be back to Russia. You know that we couldn't race in Russia since a few years, and the Russian team, as we all know, is one of the strongest in the world, if it's not the strongest at the moment. And we also know that the audience in Russia was extremely high last year, at least compared to the previous years, and could help us to keep cross-country skiing with the same number of viewers, TV viewers across the entire season. So Russia is an important market for us, and we really wanted to go back there, and that's what we will do with the World Cup finals in Tumen. Last thing is that we have, I will come back to it later, but we have this included a test of mixed team events in Falun, a test that we were planning to do 2 years ago in Canmore, but that due to the early end of the season, due to the pandemic, we couldn't do it. So we have decided to make this test this year. Next slide, please, Jenny. So this is just a draft, but we also strongly believe that we need to work more in the long term. For every one of us, it's good to have a visibility and to know where we are going. And it's also extremely important when we are asking to organizers to develop their events that they can have also a long-term vision on when they will be in the calendar, and how they can improve things and work for several years. So definitely this will or might be impacted by the discussions in the Future Vision Nordic working group, or any other big strategies coming from the council. But we have a frame, we have a base, and we believe that it's here again when I'm coming back to the priorities that I was explaining before. We believe that's a big step forward with an optimized travel plan, with different regions represented in the calendar. You can see different colors, that means different regions. With also some breaks during the winter to optimize, to work in blocks, to optimize the possibilities for the athletes to train, to rest, and to have, from a sport point of view, a logical season as well for them. Well, I will not go into the details because that might change a little bit, but you have here the basic frame, and you can see that we are planning to go in US, Canada in 2 years, and every second year to go to Russia. Missing in this plan is China. We have the games next winter, and we need to see what will happen after the games. We also have the experience from Pyeongchang, for example, that there were some plans before the games to continue with World Cup events after the games, but concrete plans didn't come reality. So we definitely will keep in mind this possibility to go to China, but we need to see how things will evolve there after the Olympics. When it comes to the race format, so the discussions in the group were based on different things. One was this gender equality in the sense of same racing distances for both women and men. As Michel said, also to follow up some discussions that we have since many years about the number of formats. Clear that if you combine the two techniques, classic skate, the different distances, the different starting procedure, I would say mass start, sprint, interval start. If you include also this untypical climb like we have in Tour de Ski. So altogether, if you combine all these factors, you can have, depending on how you do it, but 25 to 30 different combinations. So it's clear that if we want to be understandable for our audience, and especially for people who are not cross-country core fans, so if we want to develop the sport, we need to be more simple. That doesn't mean that we need to kill a lot of things, but we can definitely optimize and to have more, events that are coming regularly in the calendar. That doesn't make sense as well, like we are too often doing still, to have, for example, one team sprint or one skiathlon during the winter. So we need to decide where we want to go, what we want to do, and to use these formats more than once per season. For that, we need to reduce. We need to make decisions, and we know that these are necessary steps to be done in the future. To be able to make this, there are also some new ideas, some such as elimination race, such as optimization of the team sprint formats, 100-meter sprints. So there are a lot of things on the table, but so far we couldn't come to a common understanding on what is the future of cross-country skiing in terms of race formats, and we couldn't. We were just able to add some things and never to kill anything. And but this is definitely not possible to continue that way. So having new ideas is great. But we need to be able to make, even if it's difficult, we need to be able to make the necessary decisions to remove some other formats as well. So we will use the mixed team events in Falun to test not only the mixed events, because basically we know that it will work. There is no reason why this should not work. We strongly believe that that will even attract more nations, because not all the nations have 4 women and 4 men. That will also maybe bring the possibility to some nations to catch the podium, even if the big nations will still be strongest. But it's in a mixed team sprint, you can have opportunities for different nations to at least be competitive at the highest level. So we will test that for sure with a mixed relay 4 times 5K. So everyone will race 5 kilometers. So also more compact race format, which fits better with the needs of broadcast today. We don't have so many weekends with the possibility to broadcast 2 hours of cross-country skiing. Even thinking that people would probably not follow cross-country skiing during 2 hours if they are not really interested in this sport. So 20K will be quick with woman, man, woman. So the woman will start and finish the race. So that could create some interesting scenarios for the race development. Then we will have, that will be in free technique, sorry, forgot to say that. We will try to simplify also this day with only free technique, both for the mixed relay and the mixed team sprint. The mixed team sprint will be the opportunity to test other things as well. So first we will have individual qualifications. So we will not have semifinals and then final. Each athlete will compete the 1 lap, and then we will add the 2 times and qualify the 20 best teams for the final. So the goal here is to test these individual qualifications that are also discussed since a few years from the athletes and the teams, because semifinals are in general creating some unfair situations for the teams racing in one of the 2 semifinals, and are not bringing anything to the format itself. We will also test to have more laps. So a normal team sprint is 3 laps per athlete. Here we will have 6 laps like we do in Dresden, but Dresden is extremely short loop. So here it will be in between, I would say. So around maybe 2 to 30 minutes per athlete per lap. So the overall length of the finals should be around 30 minutes, which is a good format for people watching. And then we will also test this elimination. So every second lap, so after exchange 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, we will remove the last 2 teams from the race and finish the last 2 laps with 10 teams, like in the normal team sprint final. We are working with the TV producer to make an interesting TV production, because definitely that's a key when we come to such a race. We know that elimination, the concept is interesting when we have short laps and so on, but we need to be able to show both the fight for the lead and this elimination. So if the gaps are too big, it's not easy, and we need to have the camera positions in the right place. So we are working, and we'll continue to work with the Swedish crew to produce that in the best possible way, with the proper graphic as well, because this is a key for a successful test on this. And since we will have more action, 20 teams, we will also test the exchange without contact to avoid having a big mess in the exchange zone, and to focus on the race for the lead and this elimination instead of crashes on the exchange zone. So this is a good test for the team sprint itself, but for example, the elimination will be also an interesting test for maybe future formats in longer distance races, like sometimes they do in roller ski. This elimination mass start race could be also an interesting format, but that will be good input for the race formats expert group for the next spring meetings. Yeah, last thing regarding the mixed events, we know that this is a trend to include that in that format in the World Champs or Olympics. As Michel said, it's clear as well that we will not be able to bring this in addition to something. So if this is the direction we want to go in the future, to include the mixed relay in the Olympic Games or in the World Champs, that will mean that we will need to remove an existing format. So that's why this is not as simple as it looks like. We need to define really first where we want to go. Sprint qualifications and sprint in general, we are also trying here to increase the value of the qualification, the value for from a sport point of view for the athletes, to push them to go full speed, to create some also interesting ski racing at qualification. I don't say that it was not the case, but there are still a possibility to make it better. So we have decided to try to award World Cup points based on the qualification result. That will also to score some points. We know that we have some guys who are really fast in qualification, but not that good when it comes to the heats, or not able to keep the pace several laps. So that's also in terms of development of the nations, a good carrot, I would say, for different athletes. Next slide, please, Jenny. Still linked to the sprint qualifications, and it's something that was shown sometimes on a few TV channels, maybe sometimes on the streaming, but not really regularly. With the new platforms where we can broadcast some sport events and on-demand channels, we believe that in the future that could be interesting to provide a good quality of TV production for sprint qualifications, and to show it in a better way. For this, it's clear that so far the sprint qualifications were basically finished after bib number 20 or 30, because the top athletes were starting in the beginning, and then starting every 15 seconds. So no possibility to show much more than a start and then athletes crossing the finish line with time. So last year we have already tested in Sweden again, in Ulricehamn, to have a bigger start interval between top athletes. But now we have decided that the seeded group, so the top 30 athletes, will choose their starting bibs within the odd numbers 1, 3, 5 to 59. And that means that the even numbers 2, 4, and so on will be taken by weaker athletes, or athletes will be set between the top athletes. So the TV director will have more time to show the top athletes in the qualification. So altogether, we believe that also with an intermittent timing point, we can really produce qualifications in a better way, and and create something interesting for TV channels and at the end the TV viewers. Next, please. So I'm coming to the new obstruction and overtaking rules. So why are we doing that? Where we were doing this discussion. So as I said before, through the years, a different understanding on what should be the rules between athletes, coaches, and the rules themselves. So what at the end were the joint decisions. And last winter we have a few iconic cases, including a World Championships title involved in the 50K, as we all know. We also had quite famous situation in Lahti with the overall World Cup leader. We had also some cases in Tour de Ski. So the goal was not to react especially on the cases from last year, But as I said, it was time to come together to a better understanding on what should be the rules. So it was necessary to clarify that it's clear for all, and also to improve the legal aspects, because we know that the case in Oberstdorf at the World Champs last year could have ended up in CAS, basically, because it's clear that there were some gray zones in the rules and their application. So it's you could understand things in different ways, and it was necessary to try to clarify it. How we did it? We made this expert group with especially athletes and coaches, but also technical delegates and one legal expert. We organized several online meetings. We were drawing some situations. You can see one on the screen, showing videos, explaining and or collecting feedback and defining what should be the philosophy. And that was very interesting. We had some of the top athletes on board, also some top coaches on board with us. So that was very interesting. And we have decided, next slide, please, to try to have simple rules, so simple sentences, and then some notes to explain what it means, because a simple sentence can be understood also very simple way, but can sometimes be understood in a too simple way. So that's why our legal expert advised us to have these notes to explain. So the new philosophy is we are moving from a relative protection of the leading athlete to a situation where competitors who are leading, who are in the front, can choose their line, but must consider the other athletes as well. And when athletes are skiing alongside, then the responsibilities become shared. That means that if we have a new philosophy, we will have different jury decisions. So that means if we are watching the cases from the past, with the new rules, the decisions will be different in the future. So that's one of the challenges that we will face, because everyone, of course, will step back and say, okay, but in 2000 whatever, this case was leading to this decision, and now it's different. So yes, that will be like that, but our task now is to explain to both, of course, the athletes and coaches, but also to the audience that we have different rules. Next, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are a little bit in trouble with our schedule now.
1 minute more and I'm done.
Okay, great.
So just a picture of Beijing, and to show you the status of the stadium. Everything is in place there. The snow is missing, and then I think we are ready to go. And we are looking forward to the Nordic Combined Conti Cup there to test the cross-country venue. And that's it. We are ready to start the season. So thanks, and sorry for having been a bit long.
Thank you very much. A lot of information, of course. Questions? Fragen von eurer Seite? Okay. Then I have to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Pierre. Hope to see you next year live and in full color. And also thank you to Jenny for the first part of the FIS day here at Forum Nordicum. Thank you very much.